welcome to Talk the Thrones, the Ringers Game of Thrones after show. We back! Chris Ryan, Jason Concepcion, Mallory Rubin. We just watched the first episode of the 8th and final season of Game of Thrones. We are vibrating with excitement. We are on fire like my little man Umber.
All right, Ned Umber. Dude, Ned
Shouts
Umber.
to my dude,
It was
Ned
a
Umber.
throwback episode of Game of Thrones. We had a foursome and a child on fire. You can't ask for anything more. Hit us up on Twitter. That's where you're watching us. It's hashtag Talk the Thrones if you've got any questions or comments or suggestions for the crew here. We're going to be throwing some tweets up. We'll answer some of your questions later. What we're going to do is we're going to start with our wildfire moment. It's what everybody is talking about out there. It's what we're talking about back there. It's the most important moment from the episode. Jason, what's the wildfire moment?
I think Mallory and I probably agree on this, that it's Jon finding out that he's the son of Rhaegar and Lyanna.
Yes.
And the true king of the Seven Kingdoms.
For me, it's Bronn once again not being able to complete a journey to the brothel in satisfactory
Let
fashion.
Bronn bone.
I mean, it's just every time. Pod interrupts him. Qyburn interrupts him.
Can I just say, lock it. Lock the door. Latch it.
It's just a latch.
It's Jon.
Latch the door.
Maybe
it.
even have like a fingerprint keypad or something like that.
I think that the figure keypad costs extra,
Yeah.
FYI, at the brothel. No, of course, it's Jon finding out the central mystery of the entire story, which is his parentage, who he is, Lyanna and Rhaegar's son, and the heir to the Iron Throne. Incredible.
You guys have known probably inherently that this moment was coming for a really long time.
Yeah,
Sure.
because they ended the season 7 finale by saying that this moment was coming.
We have to
That's part
we
of
have
it.
to tell him,
Yeah.
Bran said.
Did it happen the way you thought it would? Did he react the way you thought it would?
I mean, there's no way to really find this out and not be shocked. So I would say yes. Like, he took it a lot better than I thought he would.
We had been debating for a while whether it would be like a tag team, Sam, Bran mission.
Classic bedside manner, Bran in there.
Well,
yeah.
the thing is, the reason that I think most of us landed on the fact that it would be Sam delivering the message solo is because he's always been best equipped at helping Jon cope with some new aspect of his life. You wanted to be a ranger and now you're a steward. Let me explain to you why this is not only okay, but a good thing. So we thought it would be Sam because he's cheerful and hopeful. Sam was really bummed out during this entire exchange. Not exactly the energy that Jon needs.
Tough beat finding out that your dad and brother were burned to death.
Your dad, who you despise.
By your friend's girlfriend.
Your dad, who you despise, for the record.
And she's like, guess what? You get to keep those books. No late fees.
No late fees.
And I'm going to give you a plum tenure job at University of the
At
Citadel.
the Citadel Library.
Yeah, exactly. No, he was a little bit, I just thought it was interesting that his first reaction, that Jon's first thing was, you're telling me like the most honorable man I've ever known, lied to me my whole life. Like his first thing was like, I got jobbed by the guy who I thought was my dad.
Well, I think if we look back at how many times Jon has confronted something challenging or helped somebody else confront something challenging, think of his exchange with Theon at Dragonstone in the season 7 finale. He always turns to Ned as a touchstone. When he was in the Dragon Pit for the giant gathering in the season 7 finale again, he was saying out loud, you guys can basically make fun of me and say that I'm just like my father, but his honor is like a guiding star for Jon. And so for that to come into question in any way is like, it unmoors him in a way that seems to be affecting him more than the news itself.
Stays unmoored.
I was also not...
Loves to brood.
Gotta say, like, Sam really coming with that, you're the king, let's take this thing over.
Yeah.
Not a great
energy.
episode for Dany.
It was like, I was not expecting that from Sam to really have that edge. Like, you're the rightful king, so let's do this?
It was pretty fascinating. So that's our wildfire moment, right? So that's what everybody's talking about right now. But let's take the entire episode piece by piece here. We're gonna go down the Raven scroll, and that's when we just go through the episode scene by scene, and we recap everything. We add our little spin on it. So we opened up the episode in Winterfell, right outside of Winterfell, with the arrival of Jon and Dany and the Unsullied and the Dothraki. Nice little parade. Who doesn't love a parade in the winter, right? It's like the mummers.
The Northerners actually
think,
don't like it that much.
Maybe the people receiving you don't love when you parade your entire army of Dothraki and Unsullied.
It was not exactly Mardi Gras. Let's just say that. It wasn't a lot of beads being thrown, but that's okay. Bran gives the news that the Night King has resurrected a dragon. He wanted to get through all those niceties.
Yeah.
Speaking of Bran, before we even get to Bran, we have that nice illusion, a throwback to an early season 1 moment where Bran climbs to see Robert and the entire party that Robert brought with him from King's Landing arrive. And we have this little Winterstown boy, you know, trying to just get a peek, look through people, and then climb to see. And it's just a nice throwback to remind us of how far we've come. And then to immediately be with Bran, who's basically like, we ran out of time.
Yeah.
It's just a very funny dichotomy there.
Yeah, it's interesting how like Bran's like lack of social graces, that he's like, I'm the three-eyed raven, but I have no social skills, is like it like intrudes on like your usual way of doing things if you're like a lord or a lady.
I think the fact that he doesn't really care if he is making somebody comfortable or offending them or really considering like the norms of social interactions at all is actually at this point, with heading into today's 6 episodes and now 5 episodes left, kind of like a helpful meta commentary assist from the creators.
Yeah.
You know, we laughed a few times in season 7 when like a character like Benjen, for example, said there's no time, and it was like, to get on a horse, but we now expect Bran to say things like this and just be so matter-of-fact about his mission above all else.
Yeah, so while we're still in Winterfell, it seems like Bran and Jon are very much focused on the enemy to the north. But there's still a lot of questions to answer.
Wonderful reunion, by the way.
It was a wonderful reunion.
Very
but
emotional.
You're a man now.
Almost.
Quite. Or he was almost. But then Lady Mormont, crowd favorite, brings up the little point about, we sent you off with a crown on your head, figuratively, and you came back on bended knee, both figuratively and literally. So,
I mean, it's a great point. It's what we expected
It
to
is.
happen. The Northerners are very insular. They've seen numerous of their leaders beheaded by the powers that be in the South, and now Jon surrenders his crown, and essentially after they raised him to king and expected him to protect them, and now he's, in their eyes, has passed that responsibility on to a foreigner. And the child, the product of the same family that burned his grandfather and uncle to death in the throne room. So you get where they're coming from, and it rings really true to me that this would be a complaint that people have, because they put their trust in Jon, and he's like, comes back and he's like, I brought back Daenerys, she's gonna handle it.
I have a girlfriend now. The thing is, the choice could not have been more perfect to absolutely serve as a shiv to the gut, because Lyanna Mormont has served such a crucial role in raising Jon to the status that he exited last season with. You know, before even they met, just her loyalty to House Stark, you know, she was the one who sent that scroll to Stannis when he was at Castle Black. You know, House Mormont knows no king but the king in the north, whose name is
named
Stark.
after Jon's mother, turns out.
That's right. So she's been really, she took over Davos's role as closer midway through season 7. She was, and really actually in season 6, you know, she was, when Jon got named King of the North, she was really the one who started that whole cry by shaming the Manderleys and the other houses into not being supportive of
that was an incredible moment.
To lose her is very bleak for Jon.
There were a bunch of reunions at Winterfell. We had Sansa and Tyrion reuniting, and she obviously has grown so much and changed so much since he last saw her. What did you guys think of that reunion scene?
Oh, I loved her saying, I once thought you were the cleverest man I ever met. Because honestly, when you say it out loud, I trusted Cersei Lannister. It sounds bad.
Very tough look for that guy,
It
Tyrion,
sounds
in that moment.
extremely bad.
We've been Monday morning quarterbacking Tyrion for years
Quite a
now,
while,
it seems
yeah.
like, and he's really kind of like trending
Very,
downwards.
very shaky right now. I actually like that they've just continued it with, they've continued him on this kind of like shaky downward trajectory where he's just like lost his mojo where his family is concerned.
But he has such a heat check confidence where he's like, he sees Jon struggling at the table, and he's like, I got this. Here's the thing, I'm a Lannister, and everybody's just like,
yeah, when he closes with, and the Lannister army is coming north.
So guys,
what's up? Everybody's
am I
just
right?
like, girl, boo. Very tough beat for Tyrion.
The conversation with Sansa was like, I thought, a particularly nice bookend to the exchange that Tyrion and Jon had on Dragonstone last season about Sansa, where Tyrion was like, oh, you know, she's smarter than she's letting on. Then she lets on, and Jon says she's starting to let on. And then for her to basically invert that idea of like perception versus reality about your prowess as a politician was, chef's kiss, love that.
Some other reunions going on at Winterfell. We had one that I know that you guys were anticipating a lot, which is the Arya Jon reunion finally at the Weirwood Tree. It was really quite sweet. Why do all the Starks, when they first meet up again, have to go through like a little bit of a like, here's like a little bits before we get like the hug? Because there's a lot of hugs in this episode.
I think it's in everyone's contract that we can't go more than 17 minutes without somebody making a joke about Kit Harington's height.
I know, like,
we checked that box, which is nice.
What is your agent doing with these contracts, man? Like, this is a multi-season
I feel like he
now.
gets, every joke about his height, he gets another inch on the platform shoes, because he's like towering over.
A little more moose in the
Danny,
man bun at this point. It was a wonderful scene, you know, to have a direct conversation about Needle, which of course is the sword that Jon gave to Arya when they parted at the beginning of season 1, episode 2, and that sword has been at the absolute heart of her transformation and her identity since that moment. I thought the choice to have Arya speak on behalf of Sansa in a conversation with Jon was really, really smart storytelling, because it's not, none of us want these people to be at odds with each other. And Arya and Sansa butting heads was, I think we can all agree, the worst part of season 7, other than Dumb Plan itself. And so to see that they're staying strong together, staying unified, and that Arya, while she was just overjoyed to see Jon and be back with him, also went out of her way to say, remember, our family is the thing you should be fighting for, not your girlfriend.
And he's still, but he still is, even in that moment, like foreshadowing what he's going to find out later. He's just like, but I am part of the family, and that kind of like, yeah, technically you are, but not the way we always thought, right?
Well, that's going to be one of the central tensions of the season, and has been one of the central tensions of the story. And, you know, we talk about this a lot, but one of the themes that I think people who love the story respond to the most is this idea of the family you choose. It doesn't actually matter what your name is or what your blood is. It matters who you choose to fight with and stay on the side.
Same thing ended last season.
And I'll tell you, the people in the North are really going to vibe with that.
they
are really going to vibe with the family.
Very open-minded.
Northerners, the family you choose, am I right? We good?
Listen, keep nailing the Northerners to the wall and lighting them on fire, and you won't have to worry about it.
Let's go down to King's Landing. It's Fleet Week. We got Euron in town. He comes down, he brings the Golden Company. Don't know if you guys have ever heard of that particular
I'm familiar with the Golden Compass.
Yeah, I
one of your favorite novels.
No, Golden Company are in town. Euron brought them to King's Landing. She gets word from Qyburn that the wall has fallen. She's like, good.
Yeah.
Says literally only one person.
Yeah, right. And shouts to Tyrion once again, the Lannister army's coming north, guys. To help us.
So
very tough.
We have Euron back in town, and he is very anxious to have some personal moments with Cersei. And but before that, he has a quick reunion of his own, I guess, with Yara, who's on his boat. Nice to see that she's still holding up. I don't know, how long has she been in captivity? Are we supposed to understand?
It's hard to say right now how much time has passed.
Well,
she's been on that boat for a minute.
Yeah.
If we judge by how fast Gendry runs, I mean, he took her prisoner early in season 7. You know, he paraded them into the street in the Queen's Justice, which was the 3rd episode of season 7. We hadn't seen her since.
And then he sailed to Essos, gathered an army, and come back. So it's been a minute.
Yeah.
Harry Strickland in our story at last.
So we are kind of just talking about what's happening outside of King's Landing now on these boats, but inside King's Landing, we do get to meet a new character, actually. And we're talking, like, as we go through this step by step in Ravenscroll, it's important to note that we did get the introduction of a whole new group of people here. So can you guys tell me a little bit about the Golden Company and who they are?
The Golden Company are the premier sellsword company in Essos. They were founded by disaffected rebels, basically, that tried to overthrow the House Targaryen. They were kind of like an offshoot house, the Blackfire House, founded by a bunch of royal-born bastards of Targaryen lineage. Bittersteel, who fled the decisive battle of Redgrassfield with the sword of Aegon the Conqueror. It still might be out there. But so basically, these are people with a connection to House Targaryen that went on to found the best, most successful, most reliable sellsword company in Essos.
And their mercenary interests, like, completely dissolve any Targaryen loyalties that they may have.
This is a theory.
I don't do that. Actually. I don't know. Like, there's not a lot of time left, but you know, in the books, their whole thing is like we're holding it down over here so that one day we could come back.
Right.
So do they want to come back? Or are they like, hey, we've been invited back to Westeros and like what a great opportunity for us to just knock over whoever's left.
Right.
Yeah, it would be hard to imagine having the pacing and the space left to do that, especially with the Battle of Winterfell, obviously, as we saw from the scenes from next week, rapidly approaching. I still think the Golden Company's most likely role is one of two things. Cersei obviously using them to attack either whoever makes it out of Winterfell or to potentially
stab in the back.
Yeah. I mean, her stated mission is actually use them to take back the lands, so we could see them attack Dragonstone to try to take that, to get Casterly Rock back, et cetera, et cetera. But a rift between Cersei and Euron has to happen. It just has to. Like, that was one of the bigger surprises of this episode to me, was they seem...
I don't know.
They seem happy enough, at least.
I don't know. Euron seems like such an agreeable guy.
But Cersei, is it like Cersei literally thinks that is she assuming that he would take the boats off somewhere if he didn't get his way with her?
I think...
Well, I mean, he said that, basically.
Yeah, it's a yard,
so,
right?
Yeah. I think that a thing that we know is that Euron initially wanted to pledge his fleet and his thing we're not allowed to say on this stream.
His big
Kraken. Let's go with euphemistic language.
Winds of Twitter are blowing. You can hit us up at #TalkTheThrones if you want to tweet at us, ask us questions, and we have a tweet coming up right here about Cersei Lannister. And we were always, this was a big Cersei episode in terms of her drinking while pregnant, but also having a little bit. And Kumail Nanjiani says, Game of Thrones spoiler, Cersei hearts elephants.
She just wanted to see an elephant.
That was weird. I have a couple of ideas about that. We can get to that a little later.
I like it. It's like Cersei heard how many times the showrunners and everyone involved in making this season cited Helm's Deep as an inspiration. Has been watching her Lord of the Rings and wants some Olifants in the show.
I don't know. It's like, can we see the contract again? We signed a contract. I thought there was elephants in there.
The other thing about this is that
the wall.
why is it that every 23rd character in Game of Thrones is named like a Philadelphia bartender? It's like, oh, it's Harry Strickland, my guy.
Jamie.
It's like everybody is like Qyburn, and Varys, and then it's just like it's Harry.
Todd Stark.
Do you think Harry Strickland's staying loyal to the Eagles, or is he going to follow Foles to the Jags?
That's right. I don't know. Let's get back into Ravenscroll. Let's keep going through this episode. Red Keep, we talked about Cersei meeting Harry, and Euron finally getting his big moment, prom night with Cersei.
Let's talk about this for a minute.
Yeah, let's do it.
Seemed definitive that this was their first time engaging in sexual congress together.
Great point.
Which is notable.
This was a thing that was much theorized last season. Whose baby is it? Is it Euron's? Did they already do it? Because
I had no idea.
He had that
it's got to be James.
There was some Maury going on? Who's the father?
There was some who's the father going on last season because, Euron came in extremely hot with the makeover.
A lot of talk about the finger in the bum.
A lot of talk about the finger in the bum and 2 good hands and all that stuff, and was very forward. So there was some questions about whose child is this?
Okay.
And now it seems pretty definitive that they had not known each other in the biblical sense until that moment.
So that leads me to the next scene where Qyburn infamously interrupts Bronn's foursome.
Lock it.
Gotta lock the door.
Put the sock on it.
But he says, here's Cersei's got a bunch of gold for you and this crossbow because... What a nice piece of symbolism. You would kill Tyrion with the crossbow that killed our father.
Very, very unwieldy. To be like, hold on, stand right there, Tyrion. Let me just get this out. You got to kill him.
But remember, that's the crossbow with the crank. This is very complicated.
Though. He means both of them.
If they should get out, I just want to say one thing. Like, Bronn is getting screwed in every which way except the way that he wants to.
I know.
It's like he's lost the castle, he's lost the girl, he's lost the castle multiple times. Can we just let this guy bone, please? Can we just give him 10 minutes and then come in and be like, hey, I got a thing. Like, North's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere.
What do we actually think is in Bronn's heart and mind, though? Because how many times have we heard him mention the girl in the castle that he's been promised? And it always seemed like his affection for Tyrion was very sincere, right? But then,
and Jaime.
But then when it came down to it, when Tyrion was facing trial by combat for the second time and Bronn would have had to face the Mountain, he just flat out said no. And when Tyrion said, I thought we were friends, Bronn said, I am your friend, and when have you ever risked your life for me?
Right.
And that was the closing of a certain chapter. Now, they had a very lovely reunion at the Dragon Pit last season, and it seemed like that affection was still there. Obviously, Bronn and Jaime have formed a wonderful bromance since, but what actually is the driving force for Bronn? Is it that relationship and those friendships,
Survival?
or is it what he wants? Because
yeah.
Cersei right now has what he wants, which is a little bit scary to think about.
That is scary to think about. Let's talk a little bit about what happens after that. On Euron's ship, we're going through the Raven Scroll. We're going through this episode scene by scene. Euron's ship, Theon rescues Yara, gets SEAL Team 6 up in there, rushes the boat, gets her out pretty easily. I guess Euron, like, any notes on that scene?
I have some notes, folks.
Very tough.
We are supposed to believe that Euron Greyjoy, who will tell anybody who listens and people who will not,
Sailed the 14 seas.
best captain on the 14 seas, master of the open water, needed silence, etc., etc., etc. I am the drowned god, I bring the storm, on and on and on he goes, loves to boast, loves to flex. He's had Yara with him the whole time. Guard her more effectively when you're going to get laid.
Here's the thing, though.
Like, he had a few people there, but not nearly
I
enough.
gotta say, she's
a prize prisoner.
No, but here's the issue. It's kind of like a Greyjoy thing because Yara fell prey to the same exact issue.
A foreign invasion is underway.
She was bringing the Dornish army up.
Going to get the
Dornish army, and was, the foreign invasion was
Arya
was nearing the area, and
the most iconic of all time.
And she's about to, have a great time with Arya Sand, and then gets waylaid by Euron's fleet. It's like,
true. It's a proud tradition in their family.
Can we pay attention while stuff is happening?
I also think it's fair to say that the vibe on those boats crossing the sea was like the Borgata at 4:45 a.m. Because you got guys getting killed over dice games, you know what I mean? They're probably like, get me off this boat. I'm not trying to guard whoever's in this little safe room. All right, back to Winterfell. The Karstarks arrive.
Karstark's back.
And then we had
Alice
of probably the top 20 thrilling moments in this show.
Yeah.
Right?
This was incredible.
It was great.
John
rides a dragon.
And to be clear, not in the way that he already had when he and Dany had sex on
Oh!
a boat. That's for you, buddy.
That was an alley-oop. Jason, now we're just watching. You just think, oh, cool, John gets on a dragon. That's pretty ill. But as the Maester, you're here to explain some of the higher mysteries of this show to us. Jason's going to go into a little bit more depth and detail about the history, the context of the show, and the higher mysteries, and we're going to talk about riding dragons.
Riding dragons. Well, it's been retconned a bit from the book version. In the books, it is highly suggested that you need some sort of Valyrian heritage to be able to bond with the dragons, or at least certainly that's what the Targaryens would like everyone to think, so it certainly is a self-serving notion that they put forth there. But people of unpure Valyrian heritage, Targaryen heritage, have ridden dragons, especially during the Dance of Dragons Civil War, when they had a lot of dragons but not a lot of riders, so they put out the call to bastards that were birthed from Targaryens, half Targaryens, quarter Targaryens, and we're like, anybody that can ride a dragon,
and if not, you're easily disposable then, right?
Go for it. And in the show, they've kind of changed it so that the bond between the dragon and the rider, it's much more, basically unexplained, but it's kind of like telepathy. For instance, when Drogon comes down and rescues Dany from the fighting pits. In the books, Drogon is drawn by the sound of battle and blood and just this like excitement. But in the show, Dany closes her eyes and basically calls him down. And then we saw that moment when Jon first put out his hand and Drogon sniffed him and was like, ooh,
Yeah.
I recognize,
That was very special.
I recognize you. So in the show, it's suggested that there's more of a one-to-one link, Targaryens to dragons, almost like warging, some kind of telepathic bond. What's interesting here in this scene, though, is Dany kind of should know that, right?
But I was going to ask you about this.
Dany should. You would imagine that Dany would kind of know that like Targaryens can ride the dragons, and then she has no reason at this point to suspect that Jon is like part Targaryen, and then she's basically like, get on. Maybe the idea is she's so confident about her control over these dragons that she's like, I got you. Like I'm like driving from the passenger seat, like telepathically. I don't know, but I thought that was a little strange that she was like, yeah, get on.
She was like, climb on in.
Get on that thing. Let's go.
It seems like, again, something that will help in future episodes because, one of the main questions we asked between seasons was when will Jon find out and what will the realm think when they find out? So we have part one of that. Jon knows who he is now, but Dany doesn't know who he is. Nobody else knows who he is. And so when she hears this news, the fact that he's already successfully ridden the dragon will presumably help her accept that as true.
Sure.
And also everybody else, because those shots of people watching him fly overhead and, you know, Varys, Tyrion, Davos, these aren't people we think of as being like easily wowed.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh my God, Jon's on a dragon.
Rhaegal also like very helpfully like did one of these so everybody could see that Jon was on the back.
Yes.
Otherwise, it would be like,
But that was
up there.
That was one really interesting thing, though, because when you think about the moment coming up, like if you think about what Dany finds out that she's done with Sam's family, you can see her increasingly losing political power less than a week into her stay up there, right? Like she's losing everybody who's kind of like, you need the intellect of somebody like Sam. You need the political backing of the Starks outside of Jon.
This is a great point.
Yeah, it is.
Because on the one hand, as I just said, the fact that Jon has ridden a dragon maybe helps legitimize this in her mind or other people's minds. But on the other hand, what is the one thing Dany has going for her above all else? She's got the Unsullied, yes. She has the Dothrakis, yes. She's got all her titles. She has dragons.
Yep.
She is the mother of dragons. And if Jon
is the uncle
she's
of dragons.
diluted her power.
has a dragon now and can ride, and once you bond with that dragon, you're that dragon's rider.
Yeah. Okay, let's get back into Ravenscroll
after
here.
his
Let's keep
father,
going through this.
poetic.
We've got a beautiful, so they took their ride. They have a lovely like Niagara Falls type situation up north, outside of Winterfell. Inside of Winterfell, Arya talks to the Hound, and she also asks Gendry to make a very specific weapon. Now, I think
she might ask Gendry to make a specific wedding one day.
So what was the weapon that she was asking him to make? It was like
It's hard to see. It looks like some kind of a detachable spear point for maybe that's something that she's gonna screw over like a spear or or the assassin's cat's paw blade.
Interesting. Yeah, we
Or
see her
needle, perhaps, like-
in the scenes for next week. It appeared that we saw her holding a bow of some sort, so maybe it's some special weapon there. I love Arya mastering all these weapons. I do worry at some point how many she can have at any one point. You know, she has needle, she has the cat's paw blade. We've seen from the trailer for season 8 that she's going to be receiving dragon glass, and now she has whatever.
I may be
this
wrong
is.
about this, but I think you can see from the trailer portion when Arya's fighting on the battlements that she's got some kind of a spear, like a longer weapon that she's like spinning. So maybe that's.
Oh, you know what could be interesting? No idea if this is right. Obviously,
Sure.
it was hard for us to see that drawing up there, but. Think back to her Faceless Men training with the waif. And the way that they used those.
I guess the question is, who's it for, right? Because I was wondering, like, you know, her list is increasingly, she's starting to get more and more people on her list in sight now, right?
Well, you know, there aren't that many people left on her list, which is interesting.
Right.
But I think she'll find a way to keep occupied as a murderer. I thought the choice to have her reunite with the Hound and Gendry kind of simultaneously was really fun, and also I wish that we could have just gotten 50 minutes of her with each of them.
Heavy flirtation with her and Gendry.
Yeah.
Heavy.
Quite heavy. I'm really into
flirtation.
it. I love it.
She loves a minor.
Their farewell was really heartbreaking. You know, not the actual moment of their farewell when Melisandre took him prisoner and Arya tried to stop it, but the scene that they shared prior to that, when he told her that he was staying with the Brotherhood, and she asked why, and basically begged him not to do it, and he said, you know, I've never had a family. These men are a family. And she said, I could be your family.
Yeah.
And he said, you wouldn't be my family, you'd be my lady. That's still one of the most heartbreaking moments in the show's history. And to see if they can now maybe form a family together. Wonderful.
I wonder how. Sansa and Jon had an interesting convo about bending the knee versus true love. Did you give things up because you believe it's the right thing to do or because you were in love?
I don't know, 60-40?
What would you... I don't think Jon knows.
I don't think Jon knows. Well, I'll say this. I think rationally Jon made the right decision. Did he make it for the reasons that he is purported to have made them? I don't 100% think so. Right. It's like, listen, yes, we needed the army, we needed the dragons, we weren't going to make it on our own, but also, like, it's pretty great. I got a girlfriend now. So, you know, like, I think that he probably, to your point, he probably doesn't know himself. Like, it's a win-win in his mind.
I do think that the most on-brand thing that happened in the episode, though, was Jon saying that he doesn't care about the titles or about being king or about really any of it other than fighting. You know, think of how many times we've seen him thrust into some sort of leadership position that he was reluctant to assume, and then of course he did a great job, you know, Lord Commander, fighting for Winterfell, being named King in the North, but those were all things that someone else pushed him toward first. He doesn't actually want it. That, of course, is why he's the hero of the story, and that his journey and burden is so interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's going to remain a central tension for him as a character, and is only going to be exacerbated by finding out who he is and what his destiny is, because for him it's about choice, it's not about destiny.
I think the show's drifted a little away from this conception of the character over the last season, maybe. But I'm super into Jon's death wish, too.
Yeah.
Because I think part of the reason why he's like, all this stuff that we're arguing about doesn't matter is because I don't think he thinks they're making it. Like, I think he thinks they can put up a fight, and I think he thinks he can give them the best odds. But, like, after getting killed once and then nearly dying at Battle of the Bastards.
And telling Melisandre, if I fall, don't bring me back.
Right. I think best case for Jon is they win and he dies. Like, he's all about that. Like, I can kind of get out of this. I can get out of all the stuff that I have to do.
Right.
And this gives us the best chance of winning at the same time.
Is he going to still feel that way if Dany's pregnant?
The royal baby. We can't wait to find out about that. We're still in Winterfell. We're still doing the Raven Scroll in the crypts, which is one of the main sort of settings of a lot of the promotional footage that we've seen so far.
In the opening credits now.
In the opening credits
crypts.
now. That was a new opening credits. And that's where it comes after we mentioned briefly that Dany and Sam and Jorah have this, what starts out as a nice little moment, turns into a real awkward Curb Your Enthusiasm, kind of like, killed your dad and your brother kind of situation. And then Sam, very emotional, obviously goes and talks to Bran. Bran's like, it's got to be you, goes and talks to Jon. And Sam reveals to Jon that he is Aegon Targaryen. This was our wildfire moment, that you are the son of Rhaegar and Lyanna. You are the true heir to the Seven Kingdoms. Jon obviously takes a couple of steps back. I like that gesture of taking a couple of steps back almost from the emotional impact of that moment. I know we talked about this for Wildfire, but is there any other stuff that people need to know about that moment?
I would just say one thing, that the moment when Daenerys goes to Sam in the library with Jorah, where your advisors are not serving you well if no one's like, Sam, well, Tarly, you burned his dad and his brother. Like, someone's got to come with that info.
She needs Gary from V.
Yes, legitimately needs Gary from V.
That's what she's missing.
You killed his father
Yeah, right.
and brother. Like, nobody's going to tell her this?
Yeah, and it's kind of weird.
Wild.
Yeah, that scene was very fraught. I mean, obviously Jorah saved Sam's life, so that is joyous, seeing them together again, but...
Well, this was an episode of reunions that go a little wrong.
I think that's very true to the story.
I really like that.
Yeah, I think that, you know, we can sit here for almost 2 years between seasons and say, oh my God, I can't wait for all of these happy reunions. But what did Ramsay Bolton tell us? Like, if you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.
Yeah, if you've been watching Game of Thrones again. I wanted to ask you guys, more importantly, maybe, what's up with the crypts? Because I feel like this is something that, for as poker-faced as this show has been about what's going to happen this season, they have been really putting the crypts into the foreground. So what could be down there?
Well, let's start with what we know for sure is down there. A lot of dead people, and you're fighting against an enemy who can raise the dead.
Yes.
Rickon Stark, for instance, was not burned, was buried in the crypts.
Correct. Pretty recently.
Are we going to see him running around Winterfell with blue eyes? Like, probably. I think it's almost a sure bet that we're going to see ancient Starks and not that ancient Starks rising from the grave.
Yes, is the magic of the sword that's supposed to keep the evil spirits at bay actually going to come into play in the show, or are we going to see the dead Starks as whites? I think we probably are. I think that's, at this point, the most likely candidate for that shot of Arya running in fear in the trailer. Is running from her family. What else is in the crypts? Very quickly. A lot of people think that Rhaegar Targaryen's harp is down there in Lyanna's tomb as some sort of tangible proof that they had an actual relationship based on love and that they wanted to be together. Because, of course, what does the realm believe? That he kidnapped and raped her. So we need as many bits of evidence to the contrary as possible to get people to accept this. Book theory that there is a dragon down there, or dragon eggs. Probably not time to do that in the show, but who knows, maybe. Also, I'll try to do this as quickly as possible.
It's okay.
But the idea of the great other, the other God in the Lord of Light religion. You have the Lord of Light and then the Great Other, these diametric opposing forces. This is what Melisandre's always talking about. Is the Night King the Great Other, or does the Night King serve the Great Other? We don't know. You can make a compelling case either way.
Is that like basically a god-devil binary?
Like a Manichaean thing.
Okay,
yeah.
But what don't we know about Winterfell? We don't know why it's called Winterfell. And so a very popular theory that we subscribe to is that it is called that because it is literally where winter fell at the end of the first long night. And Bran the Builder,
the guy who built the wall,
and Winterfell raised the first keep over the crypts of Winterfell because there is some sort of magic locking some sort of force in play. So does the Night King need something that's down there? We also know from Lewin that there are secret ways out of the castle. He told that to Theon in season 2. I have to assume that will come into play when they're fleeing the battle if it goes poorly. But
and Yara gave them the out too.
Yes.
I mean, she was just like
Absolutely.
basically was like Theon, like they can come to
come
me
hang and pike.
when Winterfell falls.
And the other thing though, like all of those specific things and theories about something physical, the crypts are about identity. The crypts are about the idea of belonging as a Stark. And so placing Jon there time and time again is a reminder to us and to him that this is his family and this is who he is no matter what. It is not an accident that he finds out Lyanna Stark is his mother and Rhaegar Targaryen is his father when he's standing in front of Ned's tomb.
Yeah. We can speculate all we want about people coming back to life, but the last scene we got a little bit of a dash of Night King magic with little Umber coming back at us.
Little Nedumba.
So that was scary. That was like one of the
that
most
was what I was
scary
kind of saying.
moments.
This was like this did feel kind of old school Thrones to me. There was some scary ass stuff. There was some sex. There was some violence. There were some dragons. Like this really got after it.
This sounds like Ian McShane.
I know. I'm just saying. I mean, like this is why this show is kind of the blockbuster it is because it really like hits all those pleasure buttons.
Well,
and I'm not even talking
Danny and
about
Jon are
Bronze
hitting
Room.
pleasure buttons, certainly. But seeing Ned Umber there, what did Mance Raider say? Always the artist. We've seen these symbols since the first episode of the show when the Rangers who had gone beyond the wall stumbled upon the carnage that the Walkers left behind. This is recurring imagery. We've seen it in the caves in Dragonstone. And to see it again, a symbol of ice, a symbol of the Night King, then lit on fire to get that nice ice and fire moment was a great way to start the season. Though again, it was terrifying.
Tough look for my
guy Ned Umber.
Ned Umber.
That would have been an amazing way to end the episode, but we topped it by getting real,
Oh my God.
the hooded stranger coming into Winterfell. And Mal, you could just...
You can out me. I literally screamed out loud, no one has ever looked so hot.
The guy grows one beard. It's okay.
Oh my God.
What a crazy move on his part, though. Literally no one likes him. And he's riding, like, no one in that Winterfell.
I respect it immensely.
Incredible courage. We were sort of typing to each other, prepping for the episode. Oh, we're not going to see Jaime in this episode. What a bummer. That was like really one of the only things to feel a little bummed about. And then to get him that way, I thought there was a chance that he would try to bring Bronn with him. I guess not. But that look between Jaime and Bran.
He's just like, oh.
I mean,
Forgot about that.
That's right. You crazy kid, come here. Let me see you.
I kind of wanted Bran to just like wave
You think
and
he
do
was like
something
hoping
really
he
weird?
might stand up from the chair? And like, oh no.
Well,
I did that, didn't I?
The thing is, we've talked about this a lot in all of our preview content, but Bran is going to be he's the first to say, I'm not Bran Stark
He's going to be
anymore.
the one who's the best with it.
Yes.
He is just past like his physical body and stuff that's happening in the physical realm in real time. He is all the time about the Great War. Where is the Night King? This is the ultimate battle between good and evil, and that's what he is focused on right now. He doesn't care that Jaime pushed him out of a window years ago. Like he's way past it.
Perfect end note though at the beginning of the final season, because that is the end scene of the pilot. You know, the story is not simple and linear enough in a good way. It's so sprawling, it's so vast, it's so rich and dense. To have one moment that you can point to as an inciting incident, and obviously Jon Arryn's death is why they rode north to Winterfell in the first place. But if you wanted to point to one, Jaime pushing Bran out of the tower is the closest you can get.
Yeah. I mean, also really fascinating is the way that season 7 ended. I think when all those characters first gathered at the Dragon Pit, there's someone that Jon says about we could sit here and debate what happened over the last 50 years. Jaime's key to survival is literally talking these people into not debating what happened over the last 6 months.
Yeah, he's like,
because he's just like he's got to walk in there and be like, I have this information about Cersei that you don't have? Will it buy me my life?
I think that's a great point. Because he's going to come up in here and basically blow up Tyrion's spot.
Yes.
And be like, hey, guess what?
Right.
Cersei is going to betray you. Shock.
Yeah.
Shocker, guys.
And she
Well, there you go,
betrayed you
common
before,
ground,
like,
Jaime and Sansa.
she betrayed you before, like, your horses were out of view.
She's
She
going to
betrayed
do
you.
it again.
Yeah.
And Tyrion's just going to be like,
I think we spent a lot of time saying, okay, how is Jaime going to ingratiate himself with the Starks after what happened with Bran? How are Sansa and Arya going to respond to this? I think the key is that Dany, it seems like this is going to be really a problem for her. We saw that in the trailer. This is
Yeah.
obviously the man who killed her father.
a lot of people killing a lot of people's fathers up in here.
But
rough.
there are a lot of people on Jaime's side. First of all, Jon is going to be okay with Jaime coming here. Jon is the one who tried to get everybody to go there in the first place. All Jon
Also,
wants
you
is
also
more
like
people in
sleeping
his
with family
army.
members. So,
That's
Yeah,
it.
they can talk about incest together. It'll be great. But Brienne is there to advocate for Jaime too. You know, at some point to add to the voice of chorus to the chorus.
How hard
building in
is
his
Jon?
favor.
How hard is Jon going to fight for Jaime against his girlfriend?
Well,
it'll be an interesting test.
I know.
but that's also where that exchange with Sam and Jon comes back into play, because it was not just Sam revealing this great secret to Jon. It was also him saying, I don't like your girlfriend
right.
very much, and trying to plant a little bit of a seed of doubt there.
Well, listen, we know from the trailer that clearly they do accept Jaime because we see him in the
battle.
Well,
in
they
the
either
battle.
accept him or they run out of time.
No, but so
Yeah.
what? So what is
Right.
it?
Yeah.
What is the argument that allows him to stay? Because honestly, like a one-armed fighter who came alone,
Yeah.
with no army, it's like, do you need him?
Right.
You don't really.
I guess you need like
So
every
it's
single
like-
person you can, but really at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's like, do you need him? So like, what is it that he says, and what is it that people say on his behalf that allows him to stay?
That he made a pledge, and that's where Brienne and the idea of Oathkeeper comes into play.
Okay.
That the man you thought was the man without honor is actually willing to stick to his word.
So that's the Raven Scroll. That's the entire episode. We've gotten up to the end of it. I'm Chris Ryan. That's Jason Concepcion. That's Mallory Rubin. This is Talk the Thrones. You can hit us up at hashtag Talk the Thrones on Twitter. Winds of Twitter are blowing. We are getting tweets in. Ooh. And we've got Pilu Aspek, did I pronounce his name right? The actor
Sure.
who plays Euron? Close enough? FYI, she liked it.
Is that real?
Well, I gotta say, I gotta hear it from her, right?
Well,
yeah.
he certainly asked to hear it from her 20 times. My dude is a little needy.
Yeah, he was definitely like, tell me how cool I am.
Yeah.
We got through this episode. We really only lost one person of significance, and I don't even know how significant it is, but we're going to lose lots of people in all likelihood this season. So we're going to send them out the right way with this in memoriam video. This one goes out to little Ned Umber.
Well,
Well,
Ned.
Ned.
Tough beat.
What can we say about little Ned? He was, I'll tell you a little bit about little Ned.
Let's hear it. You love famously you love
Son
the
of
Umbers.
Small John Umber.
Yeah, great guy. A great guy.
Noted traitor.
Once a Stark bannerman, but sided with the Boltons. That bet did not pay out well. Handed Rickon over to Ramsay. Thanks a lot for that.
Very tough.
And was killed. Small John was killed by Tormund at the Battle of
Beheaded
Bastion.
Shaggy Dog also. Let's
That's
not
right.
forget that.
Come
Never.
on, Small John.
Speaking of...
And then, so Ned became the head of House Umber at age 10. So, Rookie of the Year right there, following his father's death. And he pledged his house's fealty to the Starks after being called upon by Jon Snow. His first appearance was last season in the first episode of Dragonstone.
The iconic Ned Umber.
And shouts to my
Alice
guy.
Costa.
He died just trying to get those wagons. Trying to get the wagons to Last Hearth. Didn't have enough wagons.
Okay, wait.
Needed the
On the
wagons.
spot here, we have some more notes.
Okay.
I know Bran has a lot going on. I know Bran is doing a lot. But you're sending people, you the collected alliance here, sending people to gather supplies, make sure everyone can get back, be as ready as possible for the great battle to come. Like, keep an eye out.
Yeah.
Send an advanced scout.
Take the third eye out.
Yeah.
We're going to check for just one thing before you go to your castle. Is the Night King there?
Yeah.
How hard is that?
That was a bad beat for little Ned. So here we are on Talk of the Thrones. Hashtag Talk of the Thrones if you want to reach out to us. We're going to go through a couple of other categories for the episode right now. And what I thought we could start out with was, how about a little bit of Filmmaker's Corner?
Okay.
Oh!
Not to
I like how you close your laptop.
I know.
Well, I don't need it. It's all up here. I'm the
just want the
three-eyed
camera
raven
to
when it
see
comes to
all of it.
Filmmakers Corner. So Filmmakers Corner is essentially just paying tribute to the fact that this show is one of the best made shows we've ever seen on television. It's basically on the level of a blockbuster movie every week. And I just thought I would point out that one of the criticisms people had of season 7 that I shared was a little bit of a collapsing of the physicality of the world or the geography of the world. How does somebody get from this side of something to something else in less than an episode? Boat rides that go up the length of a country just happen in a second. I thought that introductory scene at Winterfell reset the majesty of this show. Like, you really got to see not only Winterfell, but the approach and what came after it. And you got to see every part of Winterfell, which we know is going to be such a crucial setting for the 3rd episode, probably, if we can guess, of Battle of Winterfell.
Right.
So I just thought that the way in which they used almost Dragon's perspective to show us
that was great.
all of what we were going to be fighting over, and also just really felt like the Weirwood Tree jumped out of that. Really, like, that's maybe the most important structure or thing in this entire setting.
Nice little pop of color there. Also, you know, when everyone was breaking down the trailer, that shot of the dragons flying through the north, a lot of people, us included, thought that might be a journey beyond the wall to perhaps try to find the children of the forest, retrieve some sort of ancient magic that would help in the war. It turned out it was just a joyride to go find a quiet place to have sex, which is great, and I support. The castle is crowded.
Yeah, the castle is extremely crowded. The bathrooms are like Coachella in ice times 10. Very tough bathroom sitch at Winterfell going on right now, folks.
It's absolutely.
I hope they're digging
the
new
Dothraki
latrine
are
pits.
probably like, what are bathrooms? Let's go into this. This is going to be the easiest question I've ever asked you, Mal.
Oh, man.
Oh boy.
Did Mallory cry during this episode?
You guys were in the room with me. I was a wreck the whole time. I was either crying or exclaiming or giggling. First of all, we've just been away from this story for so long. We've been away from these characters for so long, and just to be back with them, to be back in this world is really special. Seeing Jon receive this information about who he is something that people, whenever you came to the story, in whatever way, books, show, some combination, you've wondered about this and waited for this. And to finally see it was really special. And then, as you said, all these reunions, you know, Arya seeing Gendry, Arya seeing Jon, Jon seeing Bran, like, the list goes on and on. It was just really, even though it was complicated and very fraught in a way that felt true to the story, it was also really emotionally stirring.
Did you choke up?
No.
I got hyped.
But I got
never
very
choked up.
hyped.
I got hyped.
I
No
got
ghosts,
absolutely-
though, which is an outrage.
Oh, well, we'll have to,
An outrage.
we'll definitely, probably need to bring, an entire box
I guess the
of Kleenex in.
CGI budget that
we
got
go
the
again.
elephants also
They
still
spent
has
it on-
ghosts.
They spent it on little Ned. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back on Talk the Thrones after this.
Check out The Ringer for all your Game of Thrones needs. Every Monday, listen to The Watch with Chris Ryan and Andy Greenwald as they dive into the cultural impact of Game of Thrones.
It appeals to diehard genre people, but it also has leached into the public conversation.
Every Tuesday, Mallory Rubin and Jason Concepcion take your Game of Thrones questions live on Ask the Maester.
Dennis sucks.
Real hard ass. Not a fun dude.
Every Wednesday, Binge Mode guides you through a deep dive look at each Game of Thrones episode.
You feel exactly the opposite about the Mountain, who is still with us, though in undead form.
Check out more coverage on The Ringer with written recaps, Ask the Maester columns, episode exit surveys, and the brand new Pre-Capitals podcast dropping every Friday. So be sure to tune in all week on theringer.com.
We are back on Talk the Thrones. Thanks for joining us. Hashtag Talk the Thrones if you guys want to reach out to us. And now we get to a segment I've been dying. I can't wait to get to this one. It's the Fire and Ice Winner of the Week, delivered by House Wendy's.
Woo!
You can get a free small Frosty when you order delivery of a Wendy's spicy chicken combo using the promo code House Wendy's on DoorDash's delivery app. Who won the week, Mallory?
I found this extremely challenging to lock in on because, on the one hand, Jon finds out that he's the heir of the Iron Throne, but he doesn't want that. It's a burden. It's very complicated. Jon rides a dragon, but then Drogon's watching him while he's trying to have sex. So, I think it's some combination of...
Shouts to anybody who has pets.
Yeah.
Like, that's just get over it.
The things are pets. Yeah.
I'm going with Sansa because she
Came in
was
hot- she
the
came in
person
strong.
who seemed to be most in control of like the courage of her conviction, and also had the most other people either advocating for her or saying like, oh, Sansa seems to have like really figured out this game. Now, of course, Dany was not one of those people. She was saying, why does your sister not like me and or respect me? But I don't know. Sansa seemed to have a pretty good episode.
Needling
I feel good
John
about
too,
that.
just like she doesn't have to be my friend, but she has to respect me.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Rhaegal. He got a rider. He's been alone this whole time.
great one.
His bestie, Viserion, javelined in
Very
front
tough.
of his eyes.
Yeah.
His roommate for many years under the pyramid at Marine.
They
And
had
now
the
he's
freshman suite.
Yeah, they were just chilling down there, eating dudes and goats and whatever else. And now he's finally got
a homie.
He's finally got a partner.
Yeah.
Finally got somebody to ride.
That's a
on him.
great one.
Thank you.
Because so often throughout the story we said, why isn't Dany giving Viserion
Yes.
and Rhaegal not only just room to grow and roam, but a rider? You know, a dragon has 3 heads. This is a Targaryen saying, so to get a second head in the mix finally is really wonderful.
So that's Jason's winner of the week. Mal's winner of the week was Sansa. I don't know. Jason, do you have a loser?
I have a loser. It's Euron Greyjoy, who is definitely not getting invited back to the fantasy suite after losing his prize captive because he was up in the fantasy suite.
That's right.
Like, come on, my guy. Handle your business.
Or just put a stronger lock on it.
Just something.
Yeah.
My loser of the week is Qyburn, because clearly when he said the wall dropped, he was very excited for a reunion with all of these reanimated corpses that he couldn't wait to go
I have
examine.
terrible
And
news, you
Cersei
guys.
just hand waved it. So
I would say that my loser of the week is probably the elephant trainers of the Golden Company. I don't really understand how, if you are a high-level animal trainer who's getting elephants ready for battle, like presumably, and since they work for a mercenary group, I would imagine that that happens relatively frequently. But there's like this catch where they don't like long sea voyages. Then move out of Essos, dude. Like, where's the action at? You gotta be where the business is. First rule.
I know a lot of business in the disputed lands. Let's be fair. They're making their nut in the disputed lands. For
But I
many
could kind of
years.
imagine Cersei's Yelp review of this company where she's just
Yeah,
like,
it's like,
look,
I
Harry
was
Strickland
promised
was super
elephants.
prompt, responded to my emails, loved his name, easy to remember, and didn't seem to get upset when Euron killed a bunch of his guys in a gambling game gone wrong. But
He
I have
did
to
seem
say,
upset by
I was
that.
completely obsessed with elephants showing
She
up.
seemed like wildly crushed by
Like
that.
a
She was
little bit, like, yeah,
devastated.
it was like the circus left town.
the Dothraki had never crossed the poison water, and they managed it. So the elephants just need to sack up. I think Harry Strickland did look annoyed though with Euron, and I think that's worth noting. Actually, they seem to have tension already, and we'd been wondering if maybe Euron, because again, famously the Golden Company never broken a contract. We wondered if maybe the logistics of Euron being the one to retrieve them would make them loyal to him instead of Cersei, and if that could be a part of a ruse at some point. But maybe it has the potential at least to be the other way around, that Harry Strickland just has no interest in dealing with Euron.
Yeah.
And then if Euron gets cut out of this in some way, like, he's a pretty dangerous man. So what is he going to do then if he goes rogue?
Yeah.
And what does he think about his cousin Rod Strickland and his career as a point guard in the NBA? Who can say? So that was our Fire and Ice winner of the week, delivered by #HouseWendy's. Let's get into the small council. We're on Twitter. We're talking to you on Twitter. It's #TalkTheThrone. So you can send us your questions. You can send us your comments, your theories, if you've got any. We've got a couple of hits from the small council. So let's see those now. The first one I've got here comes from David Oxman. And he wants to know, what did you guys think of the new opening? So much to digest.
Yeah, there's a lot there.
So anything that you guys remember from the opening? It seemed very, very detailed.
Yeah,
Let me put
there's
it that
a
way.
lot there. I will say, so one thing I noticed, and I could be wrong, but if you notice the Targaryen portion of the crest, so first of all, winter has fallen, so they made it darker. The Targaryen portion is very interesting because, like, on the far left, is that the bleeding star? Is that the meteor? Is that the meteor that's falling?
The meteor that goes, when the prince who was promised is supposed to be?
I mean, it seems to be some kind of like falling asteroid meteor, which is very interesting. Obviously, we need to get like a lot deeper into it. But yeah, there's a lot to digest there, and that's one of the first things I'm going to do when I go back. Is just like,
Yeah, parse every shot of that. I thought seeing the wall, the wall falling and also just having that as like our entry into this new experience, right where we left off with the Night King's army marching through. But again, just confirmation that this force, what did Archmaester Ebro say to Sam? The wall has stood through it all. And just to be reminded that that is not true. I mean, it wasn't true then, actually, but it's not true now is a very effective way to kind of ground yourself in the story again right away. And then again, seeing the crypts. I mean,
that was
not
big.
that we needed more confirmation that the crypts are going to play a pivotal role this season, but we certainly got it there.
I mean, I was like 80%, but as soon as they put it in the intro, it's like, oh, okay.
This is huge.
Yeah.
Anna Lee Emmons, she tweets at us, best reunion so far, voting for Theon's well-deserved headbutt. That was a pretty good one. Did you guys have a favorite reunion?
I'll never pick Theon for best anything.
I think
just putting that out there now.
Jamie Bran. There's like the symmetry is great, and like the things, as you said, the things that he did for love was push Bran out of a window, and he's doing things for a different reason now, which has brought him back. And that's just that, like, oh yeah, damn it.
It's impossible to read anything into Bran's anything, his sort of reactions to anything.
Yeah.
But one thing I thought was interesting was, like, obviously we were just talking about how, like, Jaime's going to have a rough go of it once everybody finds out he's there. Bran might know his intentions better than anyone.
Right. I think Bran's just as likely to be advocate as enemy. He told Mira, I'm not anymore, meaning I'm not Bran Stark anymore. He's left that part of his life behind. Now, I think it would be very compelling if we saw him re-engage with his humanity a bit this season, but he is going to be ultimately probably okay with it. Jaime's going to have to worry about other people. My vote for best reunion, other than that one, which was obviously wonderful, is probably Arya Jon and Arya Gendry.
Yeah.
I found those both very electric for different reasons, and again, just love the storytelling complexity of having Arya advocate for Sansa in that exchange. And it just would have been very easy to slip back into Arya and Jon grew up as best friends, and Arya and Sansa didn't, and Jon and Sansa didn't. And I really, really appreciate moving beyond that as all of these characters have matured.
Bran constantly talks about how he's different, but Arya just seems different. It's like a really amazingly nuanced performance by Maisie Williams when you think about it, because she's got to, she's still of the world. She doesn't just get to roll around and just be like, I'm having a vision. She's so profoundly changed by all the training she's gone through and all the experiences and traumas she's gone through. It's an incredible performance.
I love the moment when Jon is regarding me, he's like, have you used it?
Yeah.
Classic.
And she's like, what are you
once or
like
twice.
400 or 500 times I've used it.
So we have another question here. This one comes from ZD Gordon with a great Twitter handle, @TrueDefective.
Amazing.
And before I read ZD's tweet, I just want to say these guys will be doing Ask the Maester, and Jason will be obviously writing his amazing Ask the Maester column on The Ringer. So if you have questions, hit him up with those. And ZD Gordon asks, was Harry Strickland brought to Westeros so that Jon could end up with Blackfire? Can you guys, for a layman, explain what that means?
Okay, so when we were explaining the Golden Company up at the top, the Golden Company was founded by disaffected members of the extended Targaryen family. These were the great bastards who were fathered by Aegon the Unworthy, who was a very, 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 very bad king.
Yes.
He was extremely profligate, had a lot of kids, and he gave Aegon the Conqueror's sword to one of his bastards. And that was seen as legitimizing that portion of the family. This caused a civil war. The Blackfires lost. The surviving members then fled to Essos, where some of them founded the Golden Company, including Aegor Rivers, another one of these great bastards, who fled with the sword, Blackfire, the sword of Aegon the Conqueror. So, do they still have it? Do the Golden Company still have the sword? And do they still identify with this offshoot Targaryen house? TBD, but it's pretty interesting to consider, despite the fact that there's just not a lot of time to build that up. But it's fascinating to think that they might have that.
And what value would that? Is it just?
It's a Valyrian steel sword, so there's nothing more precious in the world
Right.
other than a dragon.
Right.
On the one hand, I think that Jon's relationship with Longclaw, the Valyrian steel sword that he received from Lord Commander Mormont, has been one of the real heartbeats of the show, and is literally, it's of the North, which is what Jon needs to be and needs to keep reminding himself that he is. So on the one hand, trading that in for a Targaryen sword would be
Very symbolic.
Symbolic in a way that maybe wouldn't feel totally right to me. Yeah. However, if Longclaw is lost, and we have that trailer, the Great War Was Here poster that we got, and then the trailer Trailer of the snow covering Winterfell and the battle wreckage. And Longclaw is in there. Now, is that literal foreshadowing or symbolic foreshadowing? We don't know, but there is something pretty compelling. I want Jon to have Longclaw. I want to state that for the record. But there is something compelling about the idea of Jon wielding Blackfire, his Aegon the Conqueror's sword, and then maybe Arya finding Dark Sister, Visenya's lost sword, which we have heard her talk about. She mentioned this to Tywin at Harrenhal and how this was a heroine of hers, and I think that's important to remember too.
Most girls like your age don't care about stuff like this.
Yes, most girls are idiots.
Yes. All right, let's get into Three-Eyed Raven. This is our segment where we look ahead towards coming episodes, specifically next Sunday's episode. If I had to guess, that seemed a little bit like a Stormcloud Gathering episode, right before we get our helms deep on in the third episode. But is there anything you guys saw in the trailer for coming soon next week that you thought would be an interesting clue that our viewers would be into?
Well, not necessarily in the trailer, but I do think. Listen, I don't know if the Golden Company have Blackfire pretensions but it does feel like you didn't bring these people over and they just have the motivation of making money. I feel like there's another level that we're going to discover with them. They have their own motivations. As you noted, he looked pretty pissed that Euron is just slaughtering his dudes.
Sure.
I think that there's going to be something else. They want something else, whether it's the crown or whatever, but they want something else.
For Cersei.
They work well.
They work for whoever gave them the contract.
So Euron went over and paid them. Do they work for Euron?
Right. The Iron Bank has used them before. We heard this come up in a conversation with Cersei about her paying back her debts in earlier seasons, but they've been used to retrieve gold for the Iron Bank before. Whoever pays them and gives them a contract is who they report to. We don't know who that is, technically. I mean, it should be Cersei, but what's the fine print? We don't know.
Well,
for me,
go ahead.
The most interesting thing in the trailer, obviously, all of the Jaime exchanges, Dany challenging Jaime is, I think, going to be pretty crackling.
Seems like he's basically on trial, which is much like Tyrion was.
A lot of foreshadowing for the battle either beginning or we'll get the
episode's called Winterfell.
And then we got a quick shot of what appeared to be Dany with Jon in the crypts. So is he going to tell her?
Down there.
Because I think that there could be a storytelling path here where Jon in the classic, there's no time for that, I've looked into the Night King's eyes, he says that all has to wait and that's post-battle. But Jon can't kiss Dany again without saying, by the way, I'm your nephew. This actually has to come up at some point with her, if not the wider realm. So him choosing to reveal that in the crypts would be very powerful.
I think one of the things I keep thinking about was the way in which the Night King crossed the wall, obviously, was with the dragon, the ice dragon. I wonder how fast we're going to get a dragon fight. If he's leading with the dragon, what we could get something really gnarly, really fast. Maybe episode 3, but it seems like whatever they see at the end of the trailer for episode 2 scares the hell out of them.
Yeah, we don't see the Night King or Viserion in any of the season 8 trailers, anything. So could that be because the Night King is not at the battle? Seems highly unlikely, right? So some sort of dramatic arrival. Why is Jon riding a dragon now? Obviously that matter of identity is huge and is really paramount, but there's also the practical storytelling impact of it, which is one more way that a lot of people can escape quickly if they need to. Everybody can climb on that dragon with him and with Dany.
People,
a lot of people.
8 people.
Hopefully Jorah can hold on, can ride the dragon this time. But aerial battle with the Night King. You know, it is now canon that if you kill a White Walker, all of the whites that walker turned also fall. And it is also canon from the conversation with when Beric comes up to Jon and is like, well, there's the Night King, just kill him and that ends it?
Yes.
Does that maybe happen in the air?
And shouts to Beric and Tormund once again, standing on the edge of the wall at Eastwatch, the end of last season. launching 0 spears and 0 arrows at the Night Kings. Like, take a shot, my dudes. Take a full court heave and maybe we end this.
You never know.
Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
At least he was quicker in telling Ed that he's always had blue eyes.
Those guys are, to talk about bad
time to
beats,
wait
those
there.
guys are coming like surfing down the wall that just gets brought down. They're like running to Winterfell and they're like, guess what? And they're like, you guys have to fight again. It's going to be amazing. That was episode 1. This has been episode 1 of Talk the Thrones. For Jason Concepcion and Mallory Rubin, I am Chris Ryan. Keep up with The Ringer all week. We've got amazing podcasts and articles and videos for you to check out about Game of Thrones. And we will be back here next Sunday after Game of Thrones. We'll see you then.